Super Lucky Disaster Man. Chapter 39, Do Not Touch the Calico Cat. Natsume Soseki, I am a cat. Komaeda Nagito started reminiscing about when he wrote something like this. He had been too absent-minded during class too often, writing down random things too much, and if he didn't carefully recall it, it was really hard to remember in just a moment. Dazai Osamu chuckled as he watched Komaeda Nagito deep in thought. Can't remember? No, I remember. Komaeda Nagito leaned back against the desk, arms crossed. It's not a new work, just something casually written. Besides, when would Natsume-sensei come up with a new work, and what qualifications do I, an ordinary person, have to know about it? Ah, Dazai Osamu smiled broadly. Komaeda-kun, you're underestimating yourself too much. You know a lot more about Natsume-sensei than most people. Ha, it's just Dazai-kun giving me too much credit. Komaeda Nagito laughed along but quickly moved past this topic. Someone as ignorant as me can't understand Natsume-sensei's ideas so easily. I really need to keep studying. Well, let's leave it at that. Dazai Osamu didn't press Komaeda Nagito further on the suspicious points. After all, this was almost enough to report back to Boss Mori. What? Asking for more detailed information? We'll talk about it next time. Can't even get a vacation, and still have the nerve to make people work overtime? Dazai Osamu quickly put Mori Ogai out of his mind. He wasn't particularly interested in Natsume Soseki either. At most, he was a bit curious about the relationship between Mori Ogai and Natsume Soseki. Compared to that. Speaking of which, Komaeda-kun, Dazai Osamu pointed at his own pants. Can I borrow your bathroom for a moment? Komaeda Nagito's gaze fell downward, noticing that perhaps when Dazai Osamu's hand had trembled earlier, he had spilled some coffee onto his pants. I'm sorry. Komaeda Nagito decisively apologized. It was my mistake, I shouldn't have poured so full. I really am the lowest of trash, can't even make a decent cup of coffee. Please allow me to make up for my shortcomings. The bathroom is over here. I'll go find some suitable clothes for Dazai-kun. After bringing Dazai Osamu to the bathroom, Komaeda Nagito went to his room to search for clothes. Dazai Osamu is 17 years old this year, while Komaeda Nagito is 15. However, Komaeda Nagito has been growing quickly and would deliberately buy the largest size when purchasing clothes, so he could actually find something for Dazai Osamu to wear, including completely new underwear and such. There wasn't any time to dwell on washing it first. As long as it could be used, it was good enough. Komaeda Nagito found some suitable clothes and a towel, returned to the bathroom, placed the clothes outside, and heard the sound of water flowing inside. He knocked on the door. Dazai-kun? Do you need a towel? There was no response. Komaeda Nagito thought for a moment, then pushed the door open to take a look. No one. Well, it couldn't be said that there was no one. That not-quite-fitting coat had been thrown onto the bathroom floor. The bathtub was full, but the faucet was still gushing out water continuously. The water level had long surpassed the bathtub's capacity, overflowing and soaking the coat that had been carelessly thrown aside, leaving it half wet. Had he left long enough for the water to fill up like this? Komaeda Nagito quickly figured things out and stepped forward to glance at the bathtub. As expected, Dazai Osamu had soaked himself in the water, still wearing a white shirt and slacks. Without any particular reaction, Komaeda Nagito calmly hung the towel on a nearby pole, then sat by the bathtub, looking down. The youngest executive of Port Mafia lay at the bottom of the tub, his black hair and loose bandages floating in the water. Sensing movement above, he slowly opened his eyes. Through the rippling water and the flickering light, he indifferently gazed at the person sitting by the tub, leaning forward to look at him. Komaeda-kun, as expected, wouldn't stop him. Dazai Osamu carelessly thought. Because of wanting to witness it, Komaeda-kun wouldn't care even if he were to die in his house, wouldn't care if the Port Mafia would come looking for trouble or not. Komaeda Nagito watched for a few seconds from the side, then leaned slightly forward, reaching out to test the water's temperature. As a result, Just as his center of gravity shifted, the hand supporting him slipped on the wet bathtub, and in the midst of this incident, he instantly fell down. Ugh! Suddenly falling into the water, Komaeda Nagito instinctively struggled a few times, his hands fumbling along the bathtub's edge before he managed to push himself up, letting his head emerge above the surface, coughing. Dazai Osamu, who was severely pressed down, with his stomach already suffering considerable damage, couldn't help but adjust his position. While supporting Komaeda Nagito, he reached one hand to the side of the bathtub, helping himself sit up. While coughing, Dazai Osamu still managed to smile and speak. Cough cough. Komaeda-kun really has no sense of caution. Komaeda Nagito brushed aside the hair blocking his view. After coughing out the water that had gone down the wrong pipe, he reluctantly replied. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get close and admire Dazai-kun reaching his goal for a moment. I didn't think I'd be so useless, ending up ruining Dazai-kun's plan instead. It's really too unfortunate. Clearly, Dazai-kun being willing to notice my bathtub for a suicide attempt was something particularly worth celebrating, but it ended up failing because of me. I truly am just useless, incapable of doing anything right. Dazai Osamu felt that, after getting used to it, hearing Komaeda Nagito say such things was quite amusing. This bathtub indeed did satisfy me, but since it failed, I don't plan to continue with it. Rather than that. Dazai Osamu took a deep breath. Komaeda-kun, could you get off of me? You just pressed on my stomach, and I feel like throwing up. Komaeda Nagito only then realized that his posture towards Dazai Osamu wasn't exactly friendly. However, there wasn't much space in the bathtub to stand up, so he had no choice but to carefully prop himself up and try to step out one leg at a time. Dazai Osamu also took on a defensive stance, supporting Komaeda Nagito as he stepped out to prevent this unlucky guy from falling over again and giving his own waist another serious hit. In that case, he'd really need a vacation. After both of them finally climbed out of the bathtub, standing on the wet floor, Komaeda Nagito suddenly sneezed. Achoo! Dazai Osamu, who was wringing out his clothes, heard the noise and looked up at Komaeda Nagito, asking thoughtfully, did you catch a cold? Komaeda Nagito coughed a few times before speaking, his voice sounding a bit uncomfortable. Probably, I think it's about time I encountered some misfortune. Today has had too many good things happening. Achoo! Dazai Osamu shrugged, sorry, I used cold water. At that time, the warm water was still being heated, so he directly used cold water. But to be reasonable, if Komaeda Nagito hadn't fallen in himself, whether he used cold water or warm water, it had nothing to do with Komaeda Nagito. Komaeda Nagito naturally also understood this reasoning. This isn't Dazai-kun's fault. No matter how he thought about it, it was his own problem. Fortunately, the symptoms were still relatively minor, so maybe it could be salvaged a bit. So Komaeda Nagito turned around and went to adjust the shower head to warm water. Dazai-kun, do you want warm water? Dazai Osamu, sitting beside the bathtub, said indifferently, you use it first. Not taking your clothes off. Taking off clothes might worsen my condition. Komaeda Nagito replied with experience, so we can only proceed like this for now. So, Komaeda Nagito, who has watched Dazai Osamu wearing clothes in the bathtub, at this moment, he too had no choice but to put on clothes and take a warm shower, making others unable to resist commenting about this eccentricity. In any case, once the cold was dispelled, Komaeda Nagito walked from the bathroom to the laundry room, pulled the door open, took the clothes that had been prepared earlier for Dazai Osamu and put them on himself, then sneezed and went to find other clothes for Dazai Osamu. Dazai Osamu, after rolling around like that, still wearing wet and freezing clothes without changing for half a day, could still jump around, seemingly unaffected at all. Probably because I often jump into rivers, Dazai Osamu said, sitting in a chair, to Komaeda Nagito, who was sitting on the bed opposite, wrapped in a blanket, holding cold medicine mixed in water. Komaeda-kun, do you want to try? I still prefer to choose my own way of dying, Komaeda Nagito said, politely refusing. To choose for oneself, huh? Dazai-Osamu repeated, then suddenly laughed. Normal people at this time would say something like, I don't want to die yet, but for Komaeda Nagito, the focus was on choosing for oneself. Komaeda-kun really has some miraculous luck. For Komaeda-kun, choosing his own way to die might be the greatest act of freedom he can make in his life. There's no way he would let someone else decide for him. That's how it was. Summoned back to the Port Mafia headquarters, Dazai-Osamu lazily reported the events to Mori Ogai. After that, Komaeda-kun asked to rest, so I left. Mori Ogai massaged his forehead. Boss? If there's nothing else, I'll be going. No, you stay. Mori Ogai took a deep breath. Why did you go over to Komaeda-kun's place to try and kill yourself? It was just on a whim, Dazai-Osamu replied nonchalantly. I just thought Komaeda-kun wouldn't stop me, so it felt appropriate. Even Mori Ogai, upon hearing these words, could only be left speechless. So, why on earth did Komaeda-kun not stop you? Having only met Komaeda Nagito once, and with most of the intel gathered from Mori Ogai's the documents he'd read, he felt that he truly did not know enough about Komaeda Nagito. Just reading the materials, he really couldn't figure it out. Komaeda-kun actually has the kind of personality that allows him to calmly watch someone commit suicide in his own bathroom. Mori Ogai pinched his brow. Only me. Dazai-Osamu emphasized, if Boss Mori were to go and commit suicide in Komaeda-kun's bathroom, you definitely wouldn't get such treatment, and might even get a sarcastic remark and be kicked out. Mori Ogai. Actually, your explanation here doesn't make things any better. In truth, Mori Ogai's main focus was originally on Dazai-Osamu's report just now, Natsume Soseki, I am a cat. Before he could even contemplate deeply whether this Komaeda Nagito, who seemed to be quite valued by Natsume-sensei, might actually be his kohai, he then heard Dazai-Osamu jump to the part about the bathroom. Furthermore, he used his own need for rest as an excuse, wanting to laze around justifiably. Mori Ogai thought of another student of his teacher, Armed Detective Agency President Fukuzawa Yukichi, then thought about himself, and compared that to this Komaeda Nagito, coming to a conclusion that he had even insulted himself. Natsume-sensei's choice of students seems to be getting stranger by the day. Unlike the upright Fukuzawa Yukichi, he has always been secretly gathering information about Natsume-sensei. He knows a little, like how sensei's ability seems to be related to cats, but the specifics are still unclear. But then this Komaeda Nagito, right next to Natsume-sensei's name, wrote, I am a cat. Should this be considered careless or just overly casual? In any case, connecting this to what he knows about Natsume-sensei, Mori Ogai's first reaction was that this was the name of sensei's ability. If it is just about knowledge of the ability, it could also be that behind Komaeda Nagito is actually hiding another powerful faction, wanting to collect information about Natsume-sensei. This possibility, it's just. Dazai-Osamu brought back what was said to be written by Natsume Soseki, which overturned this hypothesis. The enemy might know Natsume-sensei's abilities, but they could not receive Natsume-sensei's teachings. Those writings did not seem like something written by an ordinary person. Between the lines, there was Natsume-sensei's aura. Rather than believing that someone with ulterior motives approached Dazai-Osamu without being detected, it is better to believe that it was simply an ordinary person who had no access to detailed information but had contact with Natsume-sensei. Although lacking decisive evidence, in situations like this, unless Natsume-sensei is caught disciplining the other party on the spot, or Natsume-sensei admits it directly, there's fundamentally no way to confirm it. However, regardless, unless Natsume-sensei comes looking personally, Mori Ogai doesn't plan on changing his approach to interacting with Komaeda Nagito, so after confirming a few details, he told the intentionally sneezing Dazai-Osamu to go rest. By the way, Dazai-kun. Just as he reached the door, Mori Ogai spoke with a smiling face. If you choose your subordinates, then don't throw them to others for training. Even if it's troublesome, you must teach them yourself, got it? For today, that's all, go home and rest. Starting tomorrow, I hope you can take on the responsibility. If Akutagawa-kun destroys something again, it will be deducted from your salary. If your entire salary gets deducted, you'll have to work overtime to pay it off. Maybe Dazai-kun could experience sudden death this time, how about it? Just about to say he doesn't mind the deduction from his salary, Dazai-osamu, I understand. Even if he said that, whatever Akutagawa-kun did today wouldn't count against him, so naturally, he would wait until tomorrow to deal with it. Dazai-osamu, thinking back about the new subordinate he had just recruited, wanted to sigh. If only Komaeda-kun were his subordinate. His invitation then was sincere. Saying he felt a cold coming on and wanted to rest, Dazai-osamu had asked for a leave from Mori Ogai. After napping on the sofa in the office, he woke up to find that it was already evening. Dazai-osamu stretched, feeling 100 times more refreshed, without any symptoms of a cold. He thought about Oda Saku and Ango's recent work arrangements and decided to try his luck at the bar. Only Oda Saku is here. Arriving at the bar, Dazai-osamu went down the stairs, circled around Oda Saku, and was about to sit in his usual spot when he discovered a cat lounging there. He immediately widened his eyes, since when did we have a cat here? Before Dazai-osamu could reach out to touch it, the calico cat nimbly jumped onto the table, walked to a more distant place, and then lay down again. Not adopted. Oda Sakunosuke, who arrived a step earlier, replied, "Is it a stray cat? It's really clean, not afraid of people, and also." After hesitating for a moment, Oda Sakunosuke continued, "Also a bit chubby." The cat seemed to be somewhat unhappy, as the originally gently swaying tail came to a stop. Dazai-osamu watched this scene curiously. It seems like it can understand human speech. Mostly judged from the tone. Oda Sakunosuke said logically, "It probably just doesn't like being stared at by you. In the end, how is it friendly? I don't see it. Before you, everyone else touched it, and it didn't refuse." Oda Sakunosuke was also a bit puzzled. "Maybe you scared it." Dazai-osamu sat down angrily. "What the heck, so it just discriminates against me? It's just a calico, not even as cute as my Komaeda-kun." Unexpectedly, at this kind of moment, hearing this name made Oda Sakunosuke raise an eyebrow. "Komaeda-kun? Why Komaeda-kun?" "Oh right, I haven't told Oda Saku yet." Dazai-osamu enthusiastically took out his phone, waterproof. Mori Ogai refused to let Dazai-osamu have more excuses for losing contact, pulled up the album, selected a picture and enlarged it. "Look. Komaeda-kun." Oda Sakunosuke looked at the beautiful Siberian forest cat on the screen and praised, "It's indeed really cute." "What's really cute?" Sakaguchi Ango also appeared on time. When he was passing by, Dazai-osamu handed him the phone, and he sat down next to Dazai-osamu, putting down the bag in his hand before staring at the screen of the phone. The calico cat leaned towards Sakaguchi Ango's side, looking along as well. Compared to it, Komaeda-kun is even cuter. "What do you think? Isn't Komaeda-kun cute?" Dazai-osamu reached out to swipe the screen, and the calico cat quietly backed away a bit. "Look at this one, and this one. The eyes is especially beautiful on this one." Sakaguchi Ango hesitated, but unlike Oda Sakunosuke who rarely pay attentions to news, he quickly connected to a recent rumor. "Wait. This cat, could it be Komaeda Nagito?" "Yes." Dazai-osamu admitted bluntly, "I told you, it's Komaeda-kun. I thought Dazai named a cat he was keeping Komaeda-kun." Oda Sakunosuke realized, so Komaeda-kun became a cat. Sakaguchi Ango's face was full of exasperation. Normal people wouldn't name a cat Komaeda-kun, right? Doesn't it feel strange? "I heard someone took a cat to headquarters to find Dazai-kun earlier, but then the cat was gone, and there were a friend of Dazai-sama appears instead, so I guess that cat might be Komaeda-kun." No surprise, being an intelligence member, you have such detailed news. Dazai-osamu clapped his hands. Koyone-san was scolding those who spread rumors to intimidate others back then, so it's normal that Oda Saku didn't know about it. Sakaguchi Ango calmly adjusted his glasses. I heard a bit because Dazai-kun wanted to investigate the person who brought that cat over. Speaking of the person who brought that cat, Dazai-Osamu complained, how outrageous, bringing Komaeda-kun's tailor back to Yokohama, just to see if I would lend a hand. Sakaguchi Ango raised an eyebrow. Tailor? Ango, you know, it's the one whose codename is based on liquor. Sakaguchi Ango indeed knew. So Komaeda-kun has been dragged into trouble again. He quickly starts to think things through, clearly sorting out the events in his mind. Very soon, he thought it through carefully. Regardless of how things turned out initially, according to what Dazai said, if Dazai went to handle it, the liquor factory on the other side would give up causing trouble for Komaeda-kun. So you helped Komaeda-kun? I just happened to pass by. Dazai-Osamu replied with an unchanged expression. Originally, Komaeda-kun wasn't that deeply involved either. Oda Sakunosuke remarked with emotion, Dazai-kun is quite caring towards friends, huh? Dazai-Osamu's face showed reluctant, no way, I've hardly even seen him a few times. I just, exchanged opinions. Is it because Komaeda-kun doesn't acknowledge you as a friend, so you won't acknowledge him either? Sakaguchi Ango asked curiously, could that rumor from the logistics department be true? Dazai-Osamu. It's not for that reason, he's indeed not my friend. Also, Ango, you really are a capable intelligence officer. Even the trivial gossip that was sealed by Koyone-san had managed to reach him, truly not to be underestimated. Thanks for the compliment. Although Sakaguchi Ango found Dazai-Osamu's childlike sulking somewhat rare, he knew not to push it too far, so he quickly changed the topic. So, how do you feel about the book exchange meeting? Komaeda-kun reads a lot. Dazai-Osamu affirmed, recalling Komaeda Nagito's bookshelf, but what he likes the most is still Natsume Soseki. I saw he had a set of Natsume Soseki books on his shelf, and then bought another unopened set, saying it was just in case. Just in case? Oda Sakunosuke repeated, not quite understanding. Exactly, in case the original set gets damaged due to some accident, and he has no way to read it again. Dazai-Osamu casually explained, Komaeda-kun seems quite certain that the old set will one day be destroyed as a price for his luck, so he bought another set as backup. That's how I knew, despite so many books and so many authors on his shelf, the one he likes most is Natsume Soseki. The calico cat lying on the bar counter twitched its ears, slightly opened its eyes, and looked towards the three people talking. Sakaguchi Ango furrowed his brows, finally realizing something. Komaeda-kun's luck, does it always require giving up something important as the price? No, but according to him, the more important the thing he loses, the greater his luck becomes. Even Oda Sakunosuke responded to this, so in that case, doesn't that mean Komaeda-kun basically has nothing important left? That's right. Dazai-Osamu spoke with a kind of strange indifference. However, even ordinary people will lose important things in all sorts of ways, just not as intensely as Komaeda-kun. Nothing in this world is eternal or unchanging. This topic was a bit heavy, and everyone suddenly fell into silence. After a few seconds, Sakaguchi Ango finally spoke. Speaking of which, Oda Saku also likes Natsume-sensei's works, right? No wonder he has so much in common with Komaeda-kun. When you two talk, do you often discuss Natsume-sensei? Actually, it's still okay. Oda Sakunosuke said, it's just that sometimes when Komaeda-kun talks about a storyline, I don't really remember it. But then he quickly says he must have remembered it wrong, though I do feel the style is very similar to Natsume-sensei. Dazai-Osamu commented, same here, sometimes I even wonder if he knows Natsume Soseki and has seen some of his random drafts. Natsume Calico Cat Soseki. Meow meow meow. Chapter 39 End.